Good afternoon, I'm Shawnee Au, and this is One News Now. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry wants the private sector to have direct and tax-free buying powers for vaccines. PCCI Honorary Chairman Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr. joins us on the line to talk about this some more. Good afternoon, Sir Sergio. First off, what made you
Good
call on...
afternoon, Sean, and to our listeners.
Yes, it's been a while, sir. So, first
Yes.
off, what made you call on the government for this? Do you find the pace of the tripartite agreements too slow?
Well, it's as fast as it can be. You know, we have the government is disadvantaged also in ordering because we cannot make down payments, no. And you know very well that the more the richer countries like U.S., UK, they blocked 3 times or 4 times the requirements, no? And here we are. We have been borrowing money, and so we are at the tail end of the orders. So we were thinking that if the private sector can freely import, no, and it's made easy for them, they can easily negotiate with their counterparts, some pharmaceutical firms, and if necessary, pay down payment or whatever advance payment, so that they can get the vaccines ahead of time and the vaccines of the choice of their people.
All right. Would this proposal be sort of similar or the same as that of Congressman Rufus Rodriguez? What kind of procedure are you pushing for exactly?
Well,
Yeah.
definitely we would like to the help of because they are proposing tax free. Anything that the private sector orders, uh, and even the LGUs, are savings for the government because the government is supposed to provide all the vaccines, and that's why we have allocated, I think, 75 billion for it, mostly borrowed money. So anything that the private sector and LGUs import will be a savings. So I think it behooves the government to really make it easy for the private sector to be able to import the requirements of their people. And of course, there is a problem on the priorities because our people in the private sector are not necessarily in the order of priorities, but they are as far as we're concerned, they're also frontliners in the economic areas. So rather than waiting for a year for them, if it's possible that we can purchase for them, that's so much the better. So everybody will be benefited: the government, our people, and it might help somehow speed up our vaccination process. The
Correct,
herd
sir. But the issue here is,
immunity.
sir, yes. But the issue
Yes.
kasi, from what I know, is that because these vaccines are not approved yet for commercial use, that's why there's always, or it always has to go through the national government in form of a tripartite agreement. So how do you propose to skirt around that
Well,
issue?
we are not going to order anything that the government is not ordering.
Okay, and
So if it's not approved and the government is ordering it, so we assume that it's approved.
well, it's because it's only approved for emergency use because none of the vaccines are approved anywhere in the world by an FDA for commercial use, but it's only approved for emergency use, which is, I think that's what the government is saying is the issue here. That's why the private sector cannot procure straight from the suppliers. So do you have a proposal on how we can work around this?
Well, I think if the government does not prohibit us and let the private sector negotiate with the supplier, that's the problem. Even if they have to pay double, so long as they don't charge their employees, that's the problem of them. But anything that can be secured is better because even now, some private sectors are importing their own already,
All right.
quietly.
Yes. And in terms of like a vaccine review procedure and procurement procedure, I'm assuming you find the government lacking. Am I right to think that?
No, the government has disadvantage, as I said, because they cannot, according to our rules, they cannot pay advance payment or make deposits, and they're also they have difficulty also in dealing going to whatever rules, no, because there are donors that are giving us free. But the private sector can so long as the government allows it and makes it easy for them, they can solve those problems.
And we have seen the private sector solve a lot of problems in the past. Now, I want to ask you, Mr. Ortiz Luis, how are businesses doing in general? I know, of course, you've been with the PCCI a long time. How are sales doing? Production rates doing?
Well, we were not doing so well, no. We were hoping that this year we would have been recovering quite quickly already, but then again comes again the difficulty that there is a spike again of the COVID positives, and what irks us is there is the private sector giving suggestions that is not really feasible anymore, like lockdown again. So many of those who are trying to open up and even borrow money so that they can continue operation are now discouraged to operate. And again, we are held back by this. So it was good that vaccines are arriving already. That somehow improve the confidence, but there is a problem again because of all this fear that there will be lockdown.
I want to get your thoughts about countries issuing vaccine cards or passports. Are you in favor of this? And what, on a bigger scale, do you think could be the implications of something like this?
I did get the first part, the government issuing. Hello?
Yes, vaccine passports or vaccine certificates?
Passports.
Yeah.
Well, there's a problem there because if everybody issues the requirements of passport, among others, our OFWs who are going to the work will not be able to go because if they are not vaccinated, how can they get the passports?
All right. On that note, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr., Honorary Chairman of the PCCI. Let's check in on other vaccine stories from around the world. Taiwan may start inoculating health workers with the first batch of AstraZeneca vaccines next week. Some 117,000 doses of the Oxford-made jabs arrived in Taiwan earlier this month, though they have yet to be administered. And Pakistan has received 500,000 donated vaccines from Sinopharm, doubling the country's total supply. The country started inoculating health workers with the China-made jab last February before rolling out the shots for the elderly last week. And Iceland will be opening its borders for vaccinated visitors this week, one of the first nations to do so. The country will no longer require mandatory testing and quarantine among inoculated travelers in a bid to boost tourism. And back here in the Philippines, the province of Bulacan has ordered the stricter enforcement of COVID-19 protocols to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Local officials are also in talks about limiting Holy Week activities in the province. JC Cosico joins us live from San Jose del Monte in Bulacan for more details. Hi, JC. How's the implementation of safety protocols there, and what do we mean when we say it is more strictly enforced?
Sean, the Bulacan provincial government intensified the enforcement of quarantine protocols amid the rise in COVID-19 cases. Border quarantine checkpoints have been set up to remind motorists to follow health standards. At the Caloocan SJDM border, the police are stopping delivery riders to inspect their bags as a liquor ban is in place until April 17. As for the 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew, employees and residents with emergencies are exempted. Today, the province has over 14,000 COVID-19 cases, more than 2,000 of which are from SJDM. City officials say daily average cases since mid-February daily has been at around 20 to 30 compared to the previous 5 infections daily. They attribute the rise in infections to the residents' non-compliance to health protocols. If cases continue to rise, the LGU says they might reimpose a market schedule to control public mobility. Sean, for now, the LGU decided to close tourist sites, including the Padre Pio and the Our Lady of Lourdes Grotto Church, which are often flocked by devotees during the Holy Week. And the city government will also ask churches in the area to limit Holy Week activities. Back to you.
Right, thanks for that update from San Jose del Monte in Bulacan. That was JC Cosico. Thanks, JC. Attacks against Asian Americans have increased under pandemic, with the latest Atlanta shooting sparking fresh outrage and fear. Filmmaker Renee Tajima Peña explains how Asian Americans have been a target of racial violence and harassment in this Bloomberg video.
It's an old story and it resonates today as well. So connect the dots for us between what happened in the early 80s to what we're seeing today with the attacks on Asian Americans, particularly the elderly, for something that's kind of just vague and out there, the onset of coronavirus, which may have originated in China, but is a global pandemic.
Yeah, well, I think the scapegoating you see all through history. So there are these fault lines of systemic racism and xenophobia directed at all people of color, but including Asian Americans. For Asian Americans, it seems like, sometimes there's a yellow light. It doesn't really happen. And then all of a sudden there's this green light. And we become the scapegoats and the target of hate and the target of violence. So it happened, during that recession in the 70s and 80s. And with this whole pandemic of hate in this past year, you have Trump calling it the China virus and the Kung flu. I can hardly say that. I can't believe a president actually used that term and racialized a disease so that I and my family and my friends become the disease. And, we just saw it kind of explode against Asian Americans. But I will say that, we've seen this upshot of anti-Asian violence, but, we've had to be very careful about understanding where it's coming from, why. Not all cases that are reported as hate crimes have turned out to be necessarily hate crimes, but there certainly is this, I think they've documented over 2,800 incidents of anti-Asian hate in the past year.
For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.